I think when we look at rappers, artists, especially hip hop, we see them as like black, African American.
Yeah.
Like finding out that 21 is an immigrant is like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like black and immigrant, like that's a thing, bro.
Different. A, because we're outside, obviously.
Yes.
B, because you're a guy. You're the first guy I've had on here.
True.
And C, because usually I talk about things that like I can actually like get into the conversation about. But this one I don't really have much experience with. This is more of like an interview. But I think it's really important to have because I don't know. I think your perspective isn't really shown a lot. Oh, and also because our tea is from not sponsored.
Oh shit.
What kind of tea do you have? The Serenity one?
Tranquility.
And I have I don't know, English like this. It's kind of trash, but whatever. So first things first, I want you to introduce yourself. This is Luis.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Luis. We went to school together.
This is true.
We learned together, and now we're working together.
That was what an intro. A little bit about you is that you're actually student here and you're an immigrant, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today because there's a lot of yous out here, but I think there's a very narrow perception of you guys and what you like go through just on a
and it's pretty relevant too.
Yeah.
Recently there was a big government shutdown all about immigration, so I think it's poignant for us to go ahead and talk about it.
So you're not part of DACA.
No.
Which we'll talk about, because not everyone is part of it. But I do have some facts about it because I think it's important to note that it's provided 800,000 work permits. That's
shout out to Obama.
Yeah, shouts out. We love you. We miss you. And most of the recipients are actually young, single women. And I think like 80% are from Hispanic countries. So yeah, that's just important to note that it helps a lot of people, which is awesome. And I think it's also important to note that Trump tried to shut it down. So not cool. We'll talk about that as well.
A few other things.
Yeah, like quite a few things.
Add it to the list.
So I think the first thing we should touch on is what we mentioned before we turned the camera on, which is that not everybody is a dreamer.
Nope.
So talk a little bit about that, please.
When it comes to being an immigrant, there's like infinite amount of different circumstances under which you may be coming to this country. Some people do it to seek a better future. Some do it to get an education, or things are just rough where they're at. And it's funny, they come here, right? And we're talking about immigration, but it's because this is the country of opportunity. That's where it's been since the beginning. Like people migrated here. So yeah, everyone's story is different.
Right.
And
this is yours.
and yeah.
Cool.
So
at the beginning of like your EP. I think one of the most interesting things to me is that I would love to know is how it's molded your perception of education, because I think a lot of times students take education for granted because of how easily accessible it is for us. We don't really realize that like it's much more difficult for others. And so how has it changed the way that you value and view education?
So education is actually really interesting because when I came to this country, I was just a kid, so the only thing I was a student. And I did up until 6th grade in Colombia, which is where I'm from, and the education there is top notch. Like that was the first thing that I noticed when I came here, is that education here was crappy. I guess public schools education, which is what I did here. It's crappy, but not because the education is bad, it's just the way it is structured. Especially for an immigrant, I was placed under ESOL, which is I don't know what it stands for. It's pretty much the way I can describe it, segregation for immigrants. Because when I came into the first room that I was in school here, it was a beautiful room with people from from Haiti, from Colombia, from Venezuela, from Puerto Rico, from parts of Europe like Turkey, from Brazil, all over the place, which is like, it's beautiful because now I've learned that that's what it's really about, like all these people coming together. But all these people that were in this room were getting the lowest interest as far as students go. And I was a smart kid. Again, I came from a good education system, so I'm like, oh, I can ride this out. And obviously, I guess the proper response would be to like, yo, f that, I'm gonna do my best and be a great student. But that's when the reality of being an immigrant hits, that it's like, you're a young kid just trying to belong, and a lot of things you don't understand firsthand. So in retrospect, I wish I had done a better job like middle school and even high school, even though high school, like, I became more of like myself and I started like, yo, I'm smart, let me act that way. And also education becomes secondary when you're just trying to belong. You're just trying to like, you see your parents trying to like find a job and like, how do they establish themselves, and then also as parents, because they're dealing with that and also the consequences of having to move your kids at an early age, I feel like my parents became a little distant from my education. They just trusted me to do my best. So my mom wasn't really like, oh, like your grades type of thing, because she just knew like what I was really going through. Like I came here and I started working in 6th grade. Not even working like getting paid, but just helping my family. Like my grandma used to have this thing where like she used to clean like a whole bunch of offices, and I would just go after school, and I remember like even sleeping in the car as I went there, and then waking up and just working. In school, like I couldn't really relate to the people that are just, that didn't know what was going with me. You know, they get to go home, do their homework, go to practice, do their club thing, all that. And I couldn't necessarily do that, and I had to like, it's like a feeling of waiting. Now I'm an adult, and in retrospect, I'm really grateful for all these experiences. And that's another thing with like being an immigrant. I think that one of the things that I live by is like, a blessing ignored can become a curse. So when I was young and I was rebelling, I was like, I hate this. But now I'm so grateful because I was able to see things from a different perspective, which is why it's important for us to include the voices of the marginalized people, like minorities, like immigrants. I've been privileged enough to like come here legally. And despite coming here legally, that doesn't mean that I'm just living my life. I've been limited or restricted to working on a yearly basis. I've been granted a working permit that expires every year. And as a result of that, I've lost jobs. My mom has lost jobs, my dad. And we've had setbacks for all of those things. So yeah, it's just complicated.
That's crazy. And I think a lot of people don't know like the psychological effects it has on you. It's not just like, you know, you're here and you're doing what you have to do. There's so much that you're missing out on. And like as a kid, especially, I feel like that can really deeply affect you.
It's been a beautiful struggle, to say the least.
It's contributed to the person that you are today, you know?
I can tell you that the past month, so I graduated in December. It was a beautiful accomplishment for me. Like I was working my ass off, like 2 jobs, doing that. It was amazing. And then I was really eager for 2019, like being able to use my degree and all that. My working permit expired on January 7th, which meant that I have 2 employers that work 2 jobs. One of them, I guess, was more lenient because it was a smaller job, and I've still been able to work it. But my other main job, like my main source of income, they literally was like, we cannot have you employed. You have 30 days unpaid leave to make sure you get that back. And then right after that, the government shutdown happened, and that delayed the process. I was just, everything was put into perspective for me as far as like how like fragile things can be for someone in my situation.
What are like some common things for a regular student, regular in quotation obviously, that for you are much more of a hurdle that you don't think people really realize when it comes to
education? Scholarships.
Or work, honestly.
Of course you can. If you're a great student, you can still get scholarships. But you got for a lot of them, you gotta be a resident. So that always pushed me away from like learning more about it. I already feel like again, all these psychological things that you're talking about, that it's
can
only
make you
you,
develop
but you don't have
insecurity.
anyone telling you like, hey, don't worry about it. Minority groups like immigrants are people that suffer a lot mentally, and I see that, you know, especially when right now with my partner, I'm able to like having someone that, you know, gets you and supports you, and you open up to them, and you see how they're like, wow, like it's crazy that like that's your reality. Yeah. Because you're just you know, a normal, you know, bright human being, whatever. But like, there's all this like asterisk next to your name. You know?
That most people really don't have to like think about or do it.
And it's also a lot of shame because being young and feeling like you don't belong, like that starts to affect you. Like you feel like you start feeling less than. So unless you have a strong pride in who you are, which I do, but again, it's still affecting me to the point that like, you know, sometimes I feel down and I have like my depressed moments, and I think it all comes from that. That's the root of like a lot of my problems. It's this feeling of like I'm not normal anymore. And the thing is that I knew what normal was because I had a life in Colombia. I was a normal kid. I was just another kid, which could be the case of a lot of people. Like you're saying, like, oh, I don't know much about immigration, but it's like that. So, and that's also one thing that I've learned to appreciate is like now I can relate to a big group of people. Even with the government shutdown affecting me, I felt so privileged first to be able to keep one of my jobs, and because like what if I wasn't affected? I would have been just like a lot of people that were just hearing it on the news. It's something empowering about being one of the people afflicted. I don't know. Like I don't think you ever want to be afflicted by anything, but again, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to like have something happen to you, and then you're like, shit, like once I let it digest and go through me, I'm like, I feel like I'm a better person for it. Someone that I'm really inspired by is Bell Hooks. I recommend, if you don't know who Bell Hooks is, check her out. She's this beautiful woman, and she talks about the importance of the perspective of the marginalized. And that's empowering to know that like me having been on the sidelines going through these things and seeing things from this side made me a really special person that has a lot to offer.
So do you ever feel stereotyped or dismissed? I think you touched on this a little bit, but you didn't.
Middle school and high school, because I wasn't an ESOL kid, I always felt like
you had that
it was like my table would be the ESOL kids, and then there was everyone else. I'm sure there was still the black and the white and the geeks and all of that middle school and high school shit. But while I was in middle school and high school, yes, it was weird. Also, I came from Colombia with pretty decent like English, but being the kid with the accent, that's always a reminder of like your label. And you're a young kid. Like right now, I'm telling my story, and I want to do more of that as I move on. But like when you're a kid, you don't want that.
No,
There's that feeling.
You don't see the value of your story when you're a kid.
That's what time is a beautiful thing, man. Keep a watch on you at all times.
Analog for me. As you get older, you're able to like have a different perspective on it. So
I still remember the day I was actually kicked out of ESOL.
Oh yeah?
My professors hated me because I used to act up. I was a smart ass. I was a cool kid. I was like, you know what? The cool ESOL kid. I was the cool ESOL kid. Get it right. So I remember going up to this professor that hated me. And she's like, oh, you're not in this class anymore. Here's your new schedule. And she was so happy to like give that to me. Because she's like, you're out of here. So it was like this interesting moment. I remember going to my new classroom where I was supposed to be. And it was crazy how I sat in this room. And I really was like, yo, we're learning. Like the professor's talking, and we have to listen and like open the book, and I'm like, god damn. So for 2 years, for 2 years, I was just like in recess.
I do want to talk about Trump. I try not to get too political. If you could describe Donald Trump in one word, what would it be? But I think it's important to talk about how that could affect you psychologically. I think his election, number one, and number two, following his election, sort of like all the work that he's put towards getting rid of programs that have helped people like you know what I mean? So how has that affected you psychologically?
Well, it's been really interesting.
And the shutdown
with Trump. So as an immigrant, politics is always a funny subject. I haven't been able to participate in, my democratic system that we live in. So I always participate as a conversation. Like I can give you my opinion, but I'm not a political person because I cannot participate. And also as a student of communications, the media has always been something that I look at like from with like a different type of lens.
Yeah.
So when he was running, I was looking at all the things he was saying, and it was like, I wasn't surprised, but I was bothered because I knew there was people that every time I saw him speak, it was a full arena.
You know?
So now that he's been there for 2 years, which have flown by.
Years?
Yeah, 2020 is over here. That's why, hey, shout out Bernie. He just said he was running.
Yes.
In retrospect, like, Trump is one of the most beautiful things that has happened to this country. Like, we're starting, it's a really important period of time that we're in, and it's no point in being angry at Trump and the things he's saying. It's just we gotta be glad at the fact that he kind of like lifted the veil of like what was under the 8 years of Obama.
Yeah, exactly. You said you wanted to bring out 21 Savage. Yeah,
I did.
That's
because
the whole thing.
First of all, I love 21 Savage. I like his music. And I just, once this thing happened with like, oh, he's arrested by ICE and like he's actually from England and he's gonna get deported, like I related a lot to that because here's a guy who is kind of like my age. He grew up in this country, and he feels like he's from Atlanta, right? And I'm so happy that people are not coming at him. I mean, they're making British jokes, but they're not really coming at him like, oh, you're fake, blah blah blah.
Yeah, people are defending
like
him.
So I liked how, for the most part, their support, but like I related to someone who's grown up here, made a life for themselves, and how it can get stripped away.
And no one viewed him as different until all of a sudden this label came that no one even knew about, and now suddenly, you know what I mean? He blended in very easily because at the end of the day, there's nothing different about him. You know I think, I don't know, I feel like our society is very prone on like dividing us and labeling as many people as we can.
Labels are something that we gotta be careful with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know as someone that studies communication, I understand why we need to like label things to refer to them. But as far as like letting the label be louder than the entity or whatever is being represented, I feel like 2019 has started and immigration is what's been so far the theme. The shutdown, seeing someone like 21, to me that's big. There's definitely a lot of resistance when it comes to like changing the narrative and showing the beauty that's kind of being suppressed. So that's why I wanted to talk about 21, and I think the culture right now, music especially, is what's changing how we talk about things. And with the 21 thing, I don't feel like it's being appreciated or like it's being talked about in the right way.
No, I think we just sort of deal with everything in like jokes and memes, but there's something really powerful that can be extracted from that situation. I do agree on that. So hey, I mean, you can be the one to talk about it. I think this is starting a conversation because I didn't even really look at it from that perspective that you just brought. I mean, I did, but
because also
I wasn't able to relate like you were, you know?
Because I think when we look at rappers, artists, especially hip hop, we see them as like black, African American. Like finding out that 21 is an immigrant is like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like black and immigrant, like that's a thing, bro.
Lastly but not leastly, I feel like you also touched on this, but I would love for you to just give some words of encouragement to any like student immigrants or working immigrants who are sort of in the beginning stages or in the lows that you said you had sometimes.
I think you gotta own like your experiences and who you are. Even when you up, you gotta own it, and you know, and just own the type of person that you are, because when you do that, you also get to know yourself. I don't have a job necessarily in my field yet, but I know what I want to do. So what I would say is just own up who you are, be proud of who you are, and work consistently towards that. Because people are not gonna get it, but you gotta show them. And open your mind too. Allow yourself to look beyond your situation. Like again, own your situation, but be open to everyone around you. Don't build up with maybe resentment or like all these negative emotions towards other people, because we're all people and we all need each other. And listen to good music. I don't know.
I would also add that yeah, listening to music, love that. And that also that labels and everything that, you know, people sort of put on you as far as like making you feel lesser than and all that is nothing that's tangible. It's something that's completely from the outside. And that whatever you want to do or whatever you want to accomplish or whatever your soul yearns for is completely within your reach. Of course, there's extra hurdles you would have to jump, but it's all possible. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, the last thing, which is kind of like, again, if we're talking about immigration and something that has made me, I think being patient. Like, we can live up to a long, I'm thinking I'm gonna live to 100, right? I'm 25, there's a quarter. I'm at 25%. So learn to be patient. Just be healthy, obviously take care of your body too.
Yeah.
But like, learn to be patient, man. You're gonna be here for a while and things that don't happen overnight. You gotta stay invested in your vision. Keep feeding it, you know, educate yourself. But yeah, patience is key, man. Patience and gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a lovely way to end it.
Yeah, and also shout out to Jazmin. Hell yeah.
That's it. Just shout out. Thanks for sipping your tea with me.
Hey, we cheers.
I don't know. Yeah, I love that. I don't know if anyone else is sipping tea. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Once again, if you are somebody who has an experience similar to his, I don't know, start a conversation in your community or in, I don't know, in your group of people, because it's important that we talk about these things. It's important that, I don't know, we express ourselves. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Deuces.